Welcome to the Dawg and Gus show, now on Feel It Radio.
What's up, Dawg?
Not much. Gus, what's up with you?
Not much. What do we got going on today?
Oh, I'm super stoked about this one, my friend.
Yes.
This is amazing. I'm really excited for this one, and you can introduce our guest.
Yeah, because you're like a little starstruck over there.
Maybe, just a little.
Yeah. We're interviewing a wonderful drummer, great artist, Matt Sobb. Hi, Matt.
Hi. How's it going, guys?
So happy to have you.
Happy to be had.
Yeah. Ooh.
Wow.
Co-founder of MonkeyJunk, co-manager, co-tour manager, 2-time Juno award winner. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any more tooting your own horn or what?
Well,
just kidding.
That's plenty.
Yeah. We'll do it for you because I know you won't do it for yourself.
I'm always interested. So the name MonkeyJunk, like, where did that exactly come from? I know that Dawg was telling me that there's in a song. It actually.
Well, so the phrase MonkeyJunk. Steve was Steve, my bandmate in MonkeyJunk, our singer, and he had seen this clip of this Delta blues artist named Son House, and he was being interviewed. And I feel like when you listen to it, you can kind of tell like that he might have been maybe a little perturbed by the person interviewing him because he gets really serious and he goes, "I'm talking about the blues. I ain't talking about MonkeyJunk." And Steve had heard that and thought, "MonkeyJunk, that sounds funny. What a neat sounding phrase. I bet you that'd make a good band name." And so that was before we formed the band. So he just kind of shelved it away and thought, if I ever form a band, I'm going to call it MonkeyJunk because that sounds funny. Nice. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything, has nothing to do with monkeys or junk, but people like to interpret their own interpretations of the name. But quite honestly, the inspiration was that interview and hearing that phrase and thinking it sounded interesting. And in that case, in that context, it just meant nonsense. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not talking bullshit here. I'm talking something serious.
Yeah, we're talking about the blues.
Yeah. Blues. So anyway, that's the origin of the name, and
so cool.
And it's kind of served us really well. I think just because of the uniqueness of it and the way it sounds, and people kind of, take their own interpretations of it, and at some point early on, how bands have fans and the fans kind of get nicknames like Deadheads or what have you, right? Yeah. So I think it was me that came up with the idea our fans could be called MonkeyJunkies. Mm-hmm. So kind of ran with that, and that's just another kind of benefit of a cool name, I guess.
For
right?
sure,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that it's cool that also people portray it in their own way too. Like it kind of gets a hold of itself. Really, I mean, wouldn't you think?
Right.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of cool how like people just sort of interpret it their own way.
Yeah. It's its own entity right now.
We've also just a quick addition to the name. It's been misspelled and mispronounced and misinterpreted many times, right? And you show up at a place you're playing and look on a poster or a marquee and it says something different, right? And one time,
I don't know how they would mess that up. I don't know.
One time, I think it was in Kamloops we were playing, and they had spelled it MonkeyJNUK, MonkeyJunk.
Wow!
Right? And I think I have a collection of photos of all the different kind of things. We had a musician friend who called us Monkey Juice. Just decided that sounded cool too, so he would call us Monkey Juice.
Oh man,
it's funny because I was talking to the guys on Feel It Radio, and I was telling them I was really excited about because they like the last two podcasts they're on Feel It Radio now every Monday night.
Excellent.
And they're like, these are really great. I said, well, just wait for this one. I'm really excited about this one. They're like, well, who is it? I said, well, it's the drummer from MonkeyJunk. And they just started to chuckle. And I said, exactly. I said, give them a
Great.
listen. And so they're going to listen. They're going to get me some feedback on what they think. But I'm hoping that they enjoy it as much as, well, I love your stuff. You guys are great.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
It's so
Thank
good.
you.
And you're originally from Ottawa?
Born and raised, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both sides of my family go back many generations. Right
Really,
here.
eh?
So
Nice.
a relative of mine, for example, designed the cattle castle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was the architect that designed the cattle castle, and on another root of my family tree, my grandmother grew up on a farm where the baseball stadium is right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So I've got deep roots in Ottawa.
You
Nice.
ever?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
And speaking of roots, your brother, Marty, is also a musician, right?
indeed he is. Yeah,
Now, is he older or younger than you are?
he is 2 years younger than I am.
Okay. I didn't know. I thought he was older for some reason. I don't know why I thought that. But I've seen him a few times with the mob.
Yes,
Over
that
the
was.
years.
That was my first band.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, is there any kind of sibling rivalry?
Certainly not from either of us. I don't think. I think, in the early days, it's kind of a cool story. I'll try and keep it succinct.
No.
No, do what you want.
Yeah.
The way I started playing drums. So Marty started playing guitar when he was about 11 or 12,
Okay.
13. When he was in grade 7, him and some buddies at school formed a band, and they played 3 songs at the coffee house at
Nice.
school, and as teen bands do, right? And so he got into it much sooner than I did. I was more interested in sports back then, and so while I was a lover of music, I was more just a fan of music, and I'd carry his guitar case around the odd time. But
Ooh.
as things progressed throughout high school, he decided he wanted to form his own band, and was discovering kind of more the roots of music and getting a little bit into blues and stuff like that. And so he had formed this band, and the drummer in the band really wanted to play heavy metal. He wanted to play harder stuff, right? So he was kind of not super interested in the material, and they ended up getting a gig at a bar in the Gatineau Hills, and so they had to make sure they had enough material, and they were practicing a lot, and the drummer wasn't super interested in the material, I guess, and skipped out on a rehearsal, and Marty didn't have his license yet, so I was driving him to
Right.
the rehearsals. So I said, well, you guys have this gig, you need to learn 45 songs, and you really need to practice. If you need to go through the songs, why don't I try and play along just so you guys can go through the songs? I had goofed around a little bit. Like in his previous band, they rehearsed at our house, and the drummer left his drums there. So when he wasn't there, I'd go down and goof around a little, and Marty and I would kind of jam out a little bit. But anyway, fast forward to this. It's 2 weeks before the gig, and I said, look, let's see if I can play along so you guys can, learn the songs. And a couple hours later, they decided they were going to call the drummer and fire him and have me be the drummer. And so first of all, never took a lesson, never owned a drum set, never played a full song, much less 45 full songs in front of people in a bar.
Right.
Unreal.
So I think baptism by fire applies here, right?
Yeah, I would
I
say.
think it very much so, yeah.
So I bought a drum set on the way to the gig from my friend's older sister's ex-boyfriend, and picked it up on the way. We drove up there. We managed to get through the night. I remember my funniest memory of the night was right near the end of the first set. Marty turns around and he goes, "You're fucking up every song. Just play it like we do in the basement." And somehow I made it through.
Yeah.
And here we are 31 years later.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah, you progressed pretty well. I would say.
And a funny footnote to that is that drummer became a really good friend of mine and still is. And Marty and I and him and a bass player, he ended up taking up guitar and singing and songwriting, and he's a fantastic multi-instrumentalist songwriter. His name is Mark Charon, and we ended up forming a band years later with all of us together, Mark singing and playing guitar, called the Cheap Seats. And it's a very rare band because we only played a couple shows, but we have like 14 songs recorded that were never released. So for super sly music fans out there, try and find it.
Right.
There's some YouTube videos, but
Really,
it's just really cool how it kind of all came full
Totally
circle.
gonna check that out.
You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is very cool. Now with the boys, you guys, you worked with both of them separately, right? With Tony and with Steve.
That's right.
Before you guys formed MonkeyJunk.
That's correct. Yeah, in about 2001. I'm trying to get the years straight here. A couple of years before 2001,
right?
I joined the J.W. Jones Blues Band.
Yes.
And Steve was in the band already. So we played together in that project for a couple of years. And then in 2001, I joined the Tony D Band and played drums in the Tony D Band until like concurrently right into starting MonkeyJunk.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the three of us is, and the blues scene in Ottawa, it's very, very close-knit. And, I mean, there's just not a lot of blues musicians and bands. Although back then there were more for sure. And it was a great, great scene. There was, at some point, there were jams almost every night of the week except for the weekends, and a real camaraderie amongst the musicians that I think still exists. But things, I mean, just the landscape of the music scene has changed quite a bit, of course, right? And so, so we had, everybody knew everybody already anyway. And
so it's perfect, right?
And having been in the two different projects, there was a real familiarity.
Yeah, and that's key, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, I think, honestly, I listen to, like, your stuff. I love your stuff. Steve Hill is another amazing blues guy.
Fantastic.
And then you've got J.W. Jones. I think we have a great blues scene here in Canada. I think that we have a lot of amazing blues musicians.
Absolutely. If you look at some of the Canadians that are traveling and touring right now, they're every bit as good and popular amongst international audiences. There's lots of Canadian artists that are touring in Europe and in the U.S. And yeah, absolutely. And actually, a little plug for MonkeyJunk. We're playing in a couple of weeks in a town called Las Vegas. Maybe you've heard it. At this
doesn't come to me.
Really cool event called the Big Blues Bender.
I've seen ads for that on Facebook and
stuff.
So
we're playing our own show as MonkeyJunk, but we're also hosting I think they're billing it as the Great Canadian Blues Review, and we've got some great Canadian artists joining us. We'll be kind of the core band, but we'll have David Gogo, Paul Reddick, Don Tyler Watson, Paul Delorier. I feel like I'm covering it. I believe Paul's wife, Anika Chambers, will join us as well, who's a fantastic singer from Houston originally. I think that's it.
Okay.
If I've missed someone,
he's
please accept
sorry.
my apologies.
He's sorry if he did.
But that's going to be great because that's going to, sometimes people don't know where bands are from. They just say, oh, hey, that's a great band. I love them. I'll look them up. And it doesn't really matter, really. It's really about the music, right? But it'll be cool for us to kind of say, hey, yeah, we're Canadian and we can hang with you Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be fun to just kind of put our little flag on it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you're pinching yourself after considering how you started playing the drums to now you're hosting events in Las Vegas? Like, that's so amazing. It's such an amazing progression, I think.
It's crazy, and it's an excellent question because yes, absolutely. And I don't know if you're familiar with Imposter Syndrome, but I've got it. And what it is really is like, I feel like I'm bullshitting everybody. Like, hey, don't you people know that I have no clue what the hell I'm doing? And
I wouldn't go that far.
I suffer from it, but
yeah.
But yes, absolutely. I mean, standing on the stage at the Juno Awards with Steve and Tony and Sam Roberts presenting an award to Feist, just having been introduced by William Shatner. Like, I honestly, I look at that and think, how the hell did I get here?
Right.
That's so
You
cool,
know?
though, dude. Yeah.
How the
you
hell
deserve
did
it.
I get here?
I mean, you're obviously incredibly
That
talented.
leads to
but-
my next question. Is like, I was going to ask you, like, because you've been to the Junos many times and stuff. Now, do you get starstruck as well? So who was your biggest, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just met this person, or one or two, or
Oh, geez. I don't know. All of them?
okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Really? I'm kind of like I described before. I'm a music fan first.
Yep.
So to be in those kind of situations, at the Junos in 2018, for example, my wife is a fan of the Bare Naked Ladies, and so am I. And we were walking at the end of the ceremony where our award was given. We were walking towards some friends to go say hi, and Ed Robertson comes across and to congratulate me, and
Right.
Rachel and I got a photo with him, and just like, he didn't have to do that.
No.
He didn't have to. I mean, I was the one that gave the acceptance speech, but it was just surreal, and
sure.
I feel incredibly fortunate to have had the opportunities that I've had and meet the people that I've had, and made some pretty wild friends that are inspirational to me. I feel like, I'm just this kid from Canada that played some drums in a basement for a little while. It's pretty cool.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, you're amazing. I mean, talently wise, it's like listening to the drums on MonkeyJunk, and then of course other projects that you've done, just incredible. So, when you said you played sports first, what was your favorite sport, or what one were you the best at?
Well, I played in high school. I played volleyball, and I grew up playing hockey from age 5, and up until the pandemic, I still played hockey and love the game, and I'm a huge fan, and hopefully the hometown team can figure it out here. I've got a good feeling.
Me too.
I've got
actually.
a good feeling.
Me too.
They've
Yeah.
made some good acquisitions this year. I think
Yes.
I'm pretty excited.
I'm carefully excited. But when I was in high school, I got into freestyle skiing, and I've skied since I was about 10. But I got really excitedly involved and got into competition, and it's kind of an ongoing joke with my wife and stepdaughter. But I actually was ranked 7th in Ontario in 1990 in moguls. And
Wow.
people that know me that as a musician look at me like, you what?
What? Skiing? Huh?
Anyway, I absolutely love skiing. It's
Nice.
it's my favorite.
You still do? Still
And I
go?
still get out every year,
Nice.
even just a couple times. But I think I'm at the point where I really want to get a little more involved. I've been so lucky traveling for music that I've been able to ski in the Rockies and at Whistler, whereas maybe I would have had that opportunity if I saved up a whole lot. But yeah, a couple days off between Calgary and Edmonton, I'm going skiing
Yeah,
at Sunshine
absolutely.
or Lake Louise, right?
Absolutely,
And similarly, in the 90s, touring out west and playing. Back then, you'd play 6-nighters, right? Monday to Saturday, and Sundays off. But I remember getting a gig on a Sunday night in Whistler, and getting to ski on that Monday, and then having to get back to Vancouver to set up and play a gig. But having those opportunities, it has been great, for travel and
Yeah.
incorporating
Seeing the country.
Yeah.
Now that kind of leads to mine. You're a great leading guy. You're just leading me into the questions I want to ask. This is awesome.
Well, he's got to keep the beat, man.
Yeah, man. He's a drummer.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Good one.
Hey, you're a smart guy. Favorite venue to play?
Oh God, favorite venue.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's interesting. I've got a lot of favorite venues. You know, there's a very special kind of Irene's Pub is very special. That's where MonkeyJunk started.
Yeah.
I played my second gig ever with my brother's band at Irene's. It's a special one just for those reasons. But there's so many great places across Canada and around the world. The strangest, I can tell you the strangest venue
Please.
I've ever played. MonkeyJunk was hired to play at a festival in France around 2010, I think. We played, and instead of the festival having a central venue where everyone comes, they have a whole bunch of smaller venues spread around the town. It's this town about 50K outside of Paris. And they had us play in a bank. Like I said, it kind of took over the town. So the venues,
Bonk.
yes.
MonkeyJunk at the bunk. That's cool.
So that was cool. As far as, so I love, I'll say that I love different types of venues for different types of reasons. I love, a sweaty, packed bar. Those are great, where people are up dancing and it's hot and obnoxious, but people are loving it.
Right.
I love that. So places like Irene's are great for that. The Rainbow, I've probably played the Rainbow the most out of any venue anywhere. I also love theaters for a different reason, and that is crowds are very very focused on the music. They're very it's like a captive audience, right? They're not going for a drink or looking at that girl down there. They're there to see the show, and it's very kind of flattering to know that someone's paid like what they call a hard ticket, right? Money for a ticket specifically to see your band and hear your songs and listen to your songs. I love that. And then there's the festivals, right? The outdoor shows. There's in the MonkeyJunk span, which is now 14 and a half years, we've been very fortunate to play some really cool festivals. The Dawson City Music Fest in Yukon was crazy awesome. I have some family up there, my wife's family, and that was a very special gig. We had more than one bra thrown on the stage.
Oh.
There was a flip-flop thrown on, lovingly.
Yeah.
But it was just like one of those, people went fucking nuts, and
Nice.
It was awesome. Another one was the Mont Tremblant Blues Fest the same year. We were the headliner on the Saturday night, which had never happened up until then and has never happened since. But it was just something about the band that year. We were just really finding our sound, I think, and firing on all cylinders. And the crowds, we used to have an agent in Quebec that booked us a lot there. And the Quebec crowds are fantastic. They're just so into the music and having a great time and loud and appreciative. And so Mont Tremblant Blues Fest, I think it was 2014. And another festival in northern Alberta that I remember that was really just great for crowd engagement. It's called the North Country Fair, and it's in it's actually not in anywhere. It's in a huge field about 45 minutes west of Slave Lake, Alberta, and it's just one of those things that's been happening for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And it's got, generational, people come and with their kids, and then their kids come. And then, it's just been, it has a real regular kind of following. And we didn't play, we went on at 11 o'clock at night, when we were on the main stage, and people were still, stuff was going on all day, but people were so into it, and it was so great. And anyway, those ones stick out.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsor.
We are currently recording Dawg and Gus in the podcast booth at Staples Studio, Ottawa, on 403 Bank Street, where they have everything to help your business work, learn, and grow. They are currently offering a clean and safe place to work with desks, offices, and drop-in memberships. More than a co-working space, Studio is a community to help you work, learn, and grow. For more information on pricing, please visit studio.stables.ca or contact the community manager at studio.ottawa@staples.ca. Hey, Doug, want some hot sauce for your tacos?
You brought your own hot sauce?
Damn right. Have you tried Gringo's Sizzling Nirvana? It'll change your life.
Nice. Are there other types of sauces?
Absolutely. There's different hot sauces for different palates, incredible barbecue sauces, red pepper jam, and salsa. All of them use fresh ingredients, and it can be delivered to your door.
Hey, how do we get some?
Go to www.gringosblazingsauces.com and order some.
Gringo's Blazing Sauces.
Bring the fire to your food. Yeah, 3 different venues, different types of places to play, and they all kind of have their own feel, right?
Yeah, for all the kind of different reasons, and I just I feel lucky that our band has been able to kind of conquer each of them, and not conquer maybe, but
well, I mean, you got the Tom Jones effect. 3 people throwing bras,
yeah, seriously,
flip flops up at you. Yeah.
I don't think Tom Jones has ever had a flip flop thrown.
Well,
yeah,
I don't
we
know.
win.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think it should be said that for a band to excel in those different types of milieus, bonus points for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. It's important to kind of understand or identify what works in each of those places, right? So in a bar, you want to rock, and you don't want to play a lot of slow songs. You want to keep it rocking and keep people engaged. Similarly with festivals, but there's still a kind of a different approach on the big stage as opposed to in the bar, and maybe that's more sonically, and I'm not exactly sure, but the theater show is very different, or doesn't necessarily have to be in a theater, but the listening crowd, right? Where you've got people specifically coming to see your show, generally seated, and that to keep people's interest, and I find that to keep them engaged, you need to have a slightly different approach. Yeah. Obviously your songs have to be good and compelling enough for people to not fall asleep. But at the same time, I think it's important to have a really good rapport with the crowd. And Steve's great at that. And we've done some tours in Eastern Europe and primarily in Poland. And, Steve took the time to learn a few phrases in Polish, which is not easy.
No, I would imagine
the language is completely different from everything else that I've ever been exposed to. And my great-grandparents are from Poland, and I don't know a lot about the culture, but I do now because the band's been there 3 times. But I think that's just a good example of identifying a way to connect to the crowd. Obviously, the music you hope is enough, but to complement that with some engagement. When Steve would say, "Good evening, we're MonkeyJunk from Canada," in Polish, we had them right away, right off the top. They were in love, because nobody else from North America, especially the American bands, would even consider that a possibility, much less put in the effort to do that.
Yeah.
So,
That's so cool, man.
That's why we're amazing and they're not. I said it.
You did.
I did.
Yeah, you went there.
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys probably sit down and discuss, okay, we're playing the Rainbow tonight. Here's our set. We're playing this festival. Or you just kind of go with it. Do you have a set list that you work with, or you just like, you know what, guys, I'm feeling this tonight? Or Steve will just turn around and go, okay, Matt, we're doing Tiger in Your Tank. Okay, away we go.
Well, he doesn't even say that. He just starts it. And he doesn't need to, right? That's the great thing about playing with Steve and Tony is we have this kind of unspoken language that comes out of our hands, and it's to answer your question, depending on the venue, we do write up a set list. I would say half the time don't necessarily follow it or add something or subtract something based on time often. But, like, again, kind of relating it back to a previous point, it's important to, I think, for a band, especially if people are paying a couple bucks to see you, to put on a show and not just be a couple guys up there playing songs with big gaps in between the songs. And so, what do you guys want to play next? I don't know. What do you want to play? I don't know. And have that. We figured that out fairly early on. That if we want to take this thing somewhere, we need to do the things that the bands that have taken it further do, and planning a show with a good flow, right? Not just opening with a slow song.
There's no way
and playing another slow song.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's
no way you do that.
No,
not your band. No,
I've seen these guys 4 times. They don't do that.
No. I've seen them also once, and it was amazing. But I'd like to. I'm going to see them much more. I want to fly to Vegas now. Actually.
Yeah, we're coming. No, we're not
just to hit the tables for a bit.
Oh yeah. So now, my question, like you said, you're a huge fan of music, right? Like indeed. So last year, you're playing the fest here in Ottawa. You're opening for April Wine and Tom Cochrane. Like for me,
do you like April Wine?
I might.
Nice, Matt.
Wow,
bro's been listening.
Were you at that show?
Yes, I was.
Okay,
yeah, and you guys were amazing, like you always are. I loved it. I didn't stay for Cochrane because my back was just really, really sore. I couldn't stand any longer. But I stayed for April Wine because I had to.
Of course,
because I can't call myself a fan if I didn't. But I'm just wondering, like, you're sitting. Okay, guys, we're on stage. You know what? We're playing for April Wine. How freaking cool is this as we're playing, right? I would lose my mind.
Yeah. Well, okay, 2 things about that. First of all, the first album I ever bought with my own money, Power Play.
Nice.
So I go back with April Wine. And the other thing about that is kind of sadly, I had to leave right after our set because I had another gig, like a wedding gig that paid a lot of money in Wakefield. So I had it was kind of really a bummer because I would have loved, because I haven't seen April Wine in many years since Jerry Mercer retired. So I haven't seen the newer lineup, and but I've been a longtime fan, similar to you, maybe not as hardcore as you, but
your first album.
Yeah, that's serious. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So you asked about, does it make you make me nervous or intimidating, or is it a huge honor and thrill? It's all of that, for sure. The great thing about that gig and gigs like it is the opportunity to play in front of a bigger crowd, right?
Yeah.
You're getting all their fans. You're getting the Tom Cochrane fans. You're getting just live music fans in general that want to get out. Like at that point, people were dying to get out. It was a condensed version of Blues Fest at Lansdowne Park over 3 days. I think I was just like ecstatic to be back on a stage like that, and to play with 2 artists that I consider big influences. It was great. Similarly, Tom Cochrane, I would have loved to have seen as well, and sadly, I had to go follow the money. But
gotta pay your bills, man.
It's super exciting. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that I've met Jerry Mercer and had a conversation with him, and he's amazing. And begrudgingly, I will say that the new drummer is actually very, very good. The new,
that's great.
Yeah. But
As
that's
he
it.
should be. Yeah.
It's not begrudgingly.
Yes, it is, because I love Jerry.
Well, sure, and everyone does, and
Yeah.
and that whole talk about big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely, big shoes.
how do
yeah.
you follow that guy? I mean,
He's doing
legendary.
He's doing very well, actually. He's actually pretty good.
Yeah, who's
Great.
your favorite drummer other than your, obviously Jerry,
I thought you might ask that question.
Well, just I'd be interested because you are like we were
Yeah.
talking about it earlier, and you know how Neil Peart has the huge kit, but you're kind of, you like it more like tight, where it's like a smaller.
yes,
right?
absolutely, yeah,
I'm sure you respect Neil Peart, but
absolutely, I do. Favorite drummer. Okay, so I don't have a favorite drummer.
Okay.
But I have a group of drummers that I'm heavily influenced by, and they're kind of in three waves. Okay, the first of all, the classics, right? Ringo, who I saw in May and was great
With his band, his all-star band?
Yeah,
Nice.
fantastic. So there's, Ringo, John Bonham, Charlie Watts, Keith Moon. The classics of rock music.
A bunch of lightweights.
Then I get into
Kidding.
Another big influence on me early on was like Motown. That's what was on the radio when I was a kid, in the 70s. And so, and then getting into the Memphis soul stuff. So a lot of those, like the Motown drummers but like Al Jackson Jr. out of Memphis, who played on Booker T and the MGs and Otis Redding records, and all the records coming out of Memphis. Not all of them, but a lot of them, right? Yeah. Then I get into Canadian drummers because I'm a huge fan of Canadian music. I'm like a little nerdy on it.
Me too.
At times. So there's a whole range of Canadian drummers who I am heavily influenced by. And then there's local drummers that I learned so much from when I first started playing. Because like I mentioned earlier, I never took a lesson. I just was figuring it out as I went along. And some of the best advice I got was to just go watch bands, go to see shows and watch the drummer and see what they do, and try and go home and put the headphones on and try and play along, and that's what I did, right? So so some of my favorite Canadian I'm like Pat Stewart is probably one of them, who plays with Bryan Adams. He was in the video. He played with him on the Reckless some of the Reckless album in that big tour, and Live Aid and all that. And I've actually become really good friends with Pat over the years. And he played with Colin James and a bunch of other Vancouver artists, and then joined the band The Odds in the 90s. And has been in that band and still is. And so he was a huge influence. But like some local guys, like I'd go out to the Rainbow and see local bands all the time. This guy Mish Pulio, who played with Tony before I did, who also played with Bruce Coburn and Katie Lang and Jan Arden, and he also has become a very good friend. And I was just in awe of being able to go to the Rainbow and see Mish play. And another guy, Scott Milks, who played in 8 Seconds.
8 Seconds.
He also played in a cover band called the Paperboys, and you could go see the Paperboys any weekend, of the year, really, around Ottawa. Grand Central, they played at, and Topaz, and so many places that are gone now. But he was a huge influence, watching him play all those great songs that they played. And another one is a guy named Steve Lund, who played in the Drew Nelson band for years, and then formed his own band called Mumbo Jumbo Voodoo Combo.
Nice.
And not only is Steve a great drummer, but he's also the lead vocalist and band leader. And I thought, yeah, man, like, all right, like that's inspiring, right? For him to just kind of take the reins and no, I'm going to be the singer and kind of lead the way. So those I probably got the most kind of influence from some of those guys, because I got to see them a lot.
Yeah.
And that really informed kind of where I went searching for knowledge and experience and inspiration. Another one of my, I'm just thinking of guys now. Steve Jordan, who replaced Charlie Watts in the Rolling Stones, is a session drummer that has played with a ton of different artists. Notably, Keith Richards' solo records in the late 80s, early 90s, The Expensive Winos, he called his band, right? And a ton of other artists. He did a live record with John Mayer that's just so great, and he was a huge inspiration when I was kind of finding my sound with MonkeyJunk. And anyway, Steve's great. Another couple of the classics, right? Earl Palmer is on a million records. He's from Louisiana, and I love that music, but he played on Little Richard records. Nice. And just, many kind of refer to him as the foundational rock and roll drummer. Anyway, I could go on forever.
Yes, you could, and that's awesome.
I love that.
That's the best response we've had to that question ever.
I was so lost in that. Like I was like, this is amazing.
I could do a whole episode on that. Yes,
and we'll have you back.
Yeah,
we
for
can
sure.
do just a drummer episode.
Now you're also doing a little. Is it a side project, the Dime Store Playboys? Is that what you consider that to be?
I don't necessarily call it that.
Okay.
It's just another thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
The Dime Store Playboys is just a super fun rockabilly band with myself, Sean Burke on bass, who I played with in the Tony D band, and again, blues scene, bunch of different scenarios. We've played together a bunch, and the two Ians. So Ian Cook is the lead singer and plays acoustic guitar, and Ian Clark is the lead guitar player who plays a beautiful Gretsch White Falcon guitar.
Nice. Oh, nice.
Love
a Gretsch. Sorry.
Yeah. That anyway. It's just a fun band. We play, a bit of classic country and a lot of like Stray Cats kind of stuff and old rock and roll and have Ian's written some songs, and so we've got 4 songs recorded.
I listened to them last night.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And anyway, I'm excited. We've been able to play some gigs this summer, and I guess depending on when this is airing, we had a great night at Irene's on August 5th.
There you go.
Yeah, it'll be behind this one.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
But good segue.
What's your most useless talent?
Oh my God, useless talent. Probably Canadian music trivia knowledge.
That's not useless at all.
That was awesome, by the way.
I get accused of being having kind of useless facts rolling around in the back of my head. You know what? I'm really good at geography.
Really?
Of all things.
Nice.
I can tell you, where. Oh yeah, I've heard of that town. Or, it's about 3 hours and 45 minutes from here to North Bay. And if you want to go that way, well, you could. There's another highway you could take that goes along the river. And anyway, that's actually pretty useful.
It's useful.
If you're
you
going
don't
to
need
North
a
Bay.
GPS.
You have Matt.
Yeah.
You could have Matt Sobb GPS.
Did you Google it? No, I Matt Sobbed it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
I sobbed it.
There's an app called Waze.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
You can have. I only recently downloaded it to use it. Probably just a couple months ago. But there was an option to have the voice be the voice of Christina Aguilera.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. So I have that.
Nice.
Does the wife change it when she gets in the car?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
I don't.
Nope.
I to be honest, I don't often use it. I use it only when if I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna be late or
you need
tight
the best,
timeline. I need to know for sure the best and fastest way to get somewhere.
Yeah.
I throw that on.
Yeah, nice. Especially with your Ottawa roots, you probably know your way around the back streets anyway.
Around here, anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I'm going to ask you another question. Like it's been on, what's that silliness that we go on there? Anyway, dream collaboration. So you're going to get yourself a bass player, a guitar player, and a singer. You can do the drums, or you can pick somebody else to do the drums.
Well, I'd
Go.
probably want to play the drums.
Well, then you're on drums, so you've got a bass player, and what other instruments you want to go.
And
you can pick
four-piece dog?
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to go with. They can be.
Jeez.
Well, he's already got the 3-piece, so we might
Yeah.
as well do a 4-piece.
Yeah, and you can say Tony and Steve, because if they're listening, they'll be really upset if you don't or not.
Oh my God.
Fun, huh?
I don't know. That's a really tough question. I've got so many wide and varied influences in different styles of music. I kind of love a lot of different stuff, and so it would be. I would probably have an answer for each kind of genre of music. Oh
Fair
yeah,
enough.
we're gonna do like a folky, rootsy kind of thing. Okay, well,
Go.
We've got to get, Johnny Diamond on bass.
There you go.
Maybe Aaron Goldstein on pedal steel.
There you go.
And Colin Cripps on guitar. And, and then, we'd have to have a keyboard player probably. So who would we get on piano? Well, maybe there's a great guy, Steve O'Connor, that plays piano in the Jim Cuddy band, and he's really good. And I mean, this is just coming off the top of my head,
and that's
right?
exactly what it's for.
And then, if I wanted if I was doing like a blues thing, it would probably be it would be different. I'd want Willie Dixon on bass, and I'd want Pine Top Perkins on piano, and
of course you would.
I'd want Little Walter on harmonica, and maybe there's so many guitar players. I couldn't even pick. We'd have to have 3 or 4 probably.
But that's just fair. It's just kind of fun to throw that out there and see what people say.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, but I was going to say, based on his answer about Canadian music and how he went off, it was going to be a longer, harder question for him to answer.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to stump him. I'm curious.
No, I think we're going to try and stump him, but you can't.
It's not going to happen.
What's the capital of? No, just kidding.
And how long does it take to get there from North Bay?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, yeah.
There's a question.
Well, no, we're not going to ask that.
No, we're not.
Is there let's say there's a venue, I know we asked you the question of your favorite venue, but is there a venue that you haven't played that you'd really love to play?
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question. Yes, there is. I would love to play at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado.
That's an amazing venue.
See videos from that place. It looks like such an amazing place.
Yeah.
We've driven by. MonkeyJunk has played a couple festivals in Colorado, one in Telluride and one in Winter Park. We did Telluride once and Winter Park twice. And we've kind of driven by, but we didn't really have time to go off and stop in. And I kind of regret that because I'd love to see it. But, of course, it would be amazing to play there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's probably one. That's one that jumps out for sure.
I have relatives that live in Denver, and
Cool.
they've been to Red Rocks. And when I was down there, I wanted to go, but there was just not a concert to go see at that time. So that would be an amazing venue to watch a concert.
Which one was the one that the Outlaw Country guys always played in Colorado?
Oh no, that was the bar.
Yeah, but
it was the Grizzly Rose.
Grizzly Rose, yeah. Never mind.
I've been there.
Off topic, but I was just sort of.
I've been there. It's a cool place.
That'd be a cool place for you to play.
Is that in Denver?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's like where Will and Jennings and all those guys used to play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Doug.
Yes. Hello. I'm just reading through my questions.
No, take your time, man. I could ask it.
Do you ever get noticed on the street, Matt? You're just walking down the street and somebody goes, "Hey, you're Matt from."
Oh my God.
Does that ever happen?
I have a funny story about that.
Great.
Fantastic.
I hope I don't screw it up. My wife and I were, I think my stepdaughter was there too. We were at Lieutenant's Pump on Elgin Street and on the patio, and someone, I hope I don't screw this up. Anyway, someone came up to the table. It might have been a server. I can't remember, but it was somebody that came up to the table. And previous to that, I had been asked a couple times, or it had been remarked a couple times that I looked like one of the guys in the Bare Naked Ladies.
Okay.
Maybe the drummer. I've got a photo of me and him. Tyler Stewart is his name. And we don't really look alike.
You
but
don't.
We have kind of maybe a similar build and all that. But she came up and, "Are you?" And I kind of went, "No, I'm not the drummer. I'm not. No, I'm not," kind of thing. And she said, "Oh, I thought you were in MonkeyJunk."
Nice.
And I'm like, "Oh, you asshole, asshole." Anyway, so that's just
That's funny.
a goofy story.
What did your wife say? Was she like, "Come on, man"?
Oh yeah, she gave me shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And Olivia was like, I can't take him anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. They like to rib me about a lot of things, but that's definitely one of them.
Well, I feel as Canadians too, we're kind of like, if you see somebody like, oh, there's Matt Sobb. Okay, well, I don't really want to bother him. He's sitting there with his, it looks like his wife and maybe daughter I don't want to bother him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I found, because when I worked at Zach's, we had a few celebrities come into Zach's. Like Bryan Adams came in one day.
Right.
And he was like, listen, I will sign autographs and talk to people, but I want to eat first. And I'm like, sure.
Right.
So I was managing at the time. So I just said, you know what, guys, make sure we keep guys away from his table. When he's done, he'll let me know. And he was very gracious.
Cool.
But it's like, just let the man have his food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're really good for that. We're not running up and interrupting stuff. So
Right.
I agree. When I worked at the Lone Star back in the day, Kiefer Sutherland used to come in because Donald Sutherland has a house in Ottawa. He did at the time. And his mom, like Kiefer's mom, is from Ottawa, and
he did live here for a time.
Yeah.
I think he went to. Didn't he go to a private school in Carp or something?
maybe I don't know for sure.
I think I'd heard that as well.
But yeah, because his mom is from Ottawa. I do know that. Yeah. And Kiefer was sitting at the bar, and nobody even knew who he was. But I just remember being like, "That's Kiefer Sutherland, man." He's like, I would think Flatliners was like my favorite movie from seeing him in the '80s or something. It's like,
Excellent.
he's from Flatliners, man. He's like, well, yeah, but haven't you seen 24? Like,
Yeah,
he's like
24.
Anyways, but it's true. We're definitely, I think we're more gracious with our understanding. People have lives, right?
You know what? When I think about that, the fact I don't know. I might have been in a bad mood or something, right, that day or whatever. But I am truly flattered if anyone knows who the hell I am. If anyone approaches me, I try to be as gracious and friendly as possible, because I am truly flattered that someone has paid enough attention to especially being the drummer, right? I'm in the back.
Yeah.
People don't see me.
Yeah. Well, especially if they're a fan too, right? Because like,
yeah.
Well,
it's to me it's kind of the greatest compliment that someone would recognize me for doing that, for playing.
Yep, drums in the back.
doing what you love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And doing
Right.
it well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the music is just so amazing for that. Like, you hear somebody that band that you really love, and then you meet the guy and he's amazing, even though he's at Lieutenant's Pub. And
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like,
Just kidding, Matt. Just kidding.
I've been telling everybody about you guys. Like, every time I get a chance, I'm like,
it's true.
listen to MonkeyJunk. I told him, did you do it? I'm going to get to it. So he got to it. Now he realizes how good you guys. I'm like, I told you so.
Yeah.
It's a huge I told you so. Now I got to get on the guys from Feel It Radio and say, guys, did you listen to him yet? Because
You are an advocate for sure. And you're wearing
You know what?
a pretty sick shirt. By the
I'm
way.
wearing a shirt. I believe it's designed by Matt. I think you told me that.
Not exactly, but
damn it.
We the cool thing about MonkeyJunk is, we all bring in ideas, but we're usually pretty collaborative about things, and it helps, that we're all kind of swimming in the same direction as far as, tastes and stuff. Of course, we all have our own individual kind of tastes and influences and all that, but there's enough, common that musically and when it comes to things like this and just generally getting along in a band is so important, right? So there's got to be some kind of commonality. If one guy loves death metal and wants to crank it in the van the whole time, and the other two would rather listen to Gordon Lightfoot, well, that's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully, Steve and Tony and I all have enough kind of commonality that we get along great.
It seems collaboratively you're on the same page, right? Like,
yeah. And I think over the years we've done things that that may be a little more in the direction of one or another member, but in the greater kind of, when you think about an album and all the songs on an album, and I think that when you try and kind of look at it as a whole, the individual parts have to kind of have a flow, and sometimes that means, we need a real rocker and a slower one, and then a kind of mid-tempo one, and then one with a different kind of beat, and then and that basically kind of gets fed from different influences, and some of those influences could be stronger from one member or another, but that I think what we've done is we've just trusted that in the end we'll all be satisfied with how that all comes together somehow.
Yeah.
And
I would imagine that each of you explain it to each other in a way that works too, right? Like the vision that you have may, and they come together at the same time, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that, we're perfect and we get along 100% all the time. There's definitely butting heads and
that's a good
let's
thing.
do this. No, I don't want to do that. Or it's not quite that blunt, I suppose, but
it could be if you had to, right?
But it could be,
Yeah.
But you know what? I think to get the best out of a group of musicians, you have to bash it around a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to throw it around, throw it up against the wall, and see if it sticks. That you have to try things, and I think that's something I've kind of learned over the years. Don't hold it too precious, and don't get too bummed out if it doesn't go through your whatever idea it is that you're trying to kind of push or get developed, right? You just, like I was saying, you have to kind of trust that everyone's gonna add something valuable, and in the end it's gonna work out fine.
Well, it's worked over the 5 albums so far, right?
So far, so good.
Yeah, who's on the 3-wheel or the big wheel on the cover of the album?
Oh, there's a funny story too. Well, it's a young man in. Okay, so basically we got this idea. Okay, so we had the title of the record, "Time to Roll."
Yeah,
Steve had this idea that it would be cool visually, like we have this kind of rule. There's no band photos on the front of our records.
Mm-hmm.
It should be something creative that is maybe striking, that would draw attention to the album cover, creatively kind of meshing with whatever the album's about, or what it's got to fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So we thought, time to roll. Okay, well, how do we kind of represent that, but in a creative and different way, right? And Steve had this idea. It'd be so cool to have a kid on a big wheels, and so we were on the road we were in upstate New York. I remember being around Syracuse, and we were actually had a very close deadline because we had been mulling over ideas and none of them were sticking. And I had a thing where I don't like, this is another thing I could go off on a tangent. I won't, don't worry. That I don't like albums named after a song on the album. I don't like title track. I want the album title to represent the album as a whole and not be a song on the album. But I lost that battle. Mm-hmm. I had it for the first 4.
It's a great song too, by the way. Sorry.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But I lost that battle for this one, and that's cool. And I was fine with it eventually.
Yeah, of course.
But Steve came up with this idea, but we were kind of pressed for time, and we're on the road, and we've got to get the woman that was doing our graphic design is in Chicago, and the record company's in Edmonton, and it's getting, happening to get all that coordinated. We kind of had to, let's get it going here. And so Steve, Googled images of, kid on big wheels or whatever, and came up with that and found that image. And when he found the image, it was on a European website or something, and didn't realize that, thought it was kind of like public domain or whatever. Didn't think of the implications that maybe someone owned that image. And so we got the image, sent the link to the graphic designer. She was able to get the image off the website, made the records, blah, 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 blah. After the record came out, someone had pointed out, oh, that's a cool photo of blah, 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 the kid's name. He's an adult now, and it's this famous photographer that took the shot, and we're kind of sinking in our seats. Okay. And anyway, all that to say, eventually we were contacted by the company that owns the rights to the photo. And we paid them some money to use the photo, to license the photo. However, it was probably a little more than if we had known in advance and asked for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's all cool. Like we paid a fair amount of money to them so that the photographer would be paid for his work. And anyway, all that to say, apparently it's a fairly famous photo, or it's included in a book, and it was commissioned by, like, I feel like it was in Colorado for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I could be wrong. And it was a photo essay on suburban life in the 70s or something like that. And
interesting.
It was this kid.
Yeah.
Cool.
And when I was a kid,
They hit the jackpot when you guys used it.
yeah, like, my brother had a Big Wheels and I had a green machine. Do you guys
Green
remember
machine,
that?
yes.
Okay.
I don't, but
So-
I do.
Yeah.
So I related directly to this. Like, this was like, yeah, that's perfect. That's great. And people have remarked that they love the cover. And anyway,
I do. I really do.
all that to say, it all worked out in the end. But at one point, we were a little nervous about
No doubt.
the fact that this was
bet, yeah.
not something that we should have maybe checked it out. And anyway,
It's
it
like
all
a
it all
super-
turned out fine.
Lesson learned.
The photographer,
Exactly.
the photographer's like super famous.
Yeah.
You know what? We have a lot of good friends. Ottawa has, I'm sure you guys know this, Ottawa has a wealth of excellent music photographers. You know, some come to mind that you probably have heard of: Sean Sisk, Scotty Doubt. There's a really good one, Matthew Perry, not Chandler.
I've heard of Matthew.
He was also from Ottawa, by the way.
Yeah.
Peter Weiser. Yes, he went to Ashbury. There are so many. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, and they're all super great. Sandy Sharkey takes great photos. Anyway, and I have an uncle who is an amazing photographer, taught photography at Algonquin, owned his own business for many years. So we all have a very keen, put a keen sense of photographers and put a value on their work. They're artists just like we're musicians.
Yeah.
You know, it's a I would kind of consider it a connected art
For sure.
form. I think music and photography go pretty famously together, right?
Yeah,
so,
there's some- Oh yeah.
yeah.
Maybe a little.
Oh, very much so. There's so
see
many iconic. Well, I mean, just talking about a album cover alone, right? Like, it's amazing that the photographer, like, there's so many famous musicians in photos, you know, and
Indeed.
and covers of actual. Anyways, I could go on for that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just
love
came up-
photography, so
The meme came up in my mind there of thank you. Oh, now I'm going to forget him. States. Oh, damn it. That's gone.
all right. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
Is there a type of music you don't like? Style, genre?
No,
No.
I like it all. Everything. No, there's certain things I lean towards for sure. But like, I think when it comes down to it, for me, there's got to be something that's got to move me, that's got to make me feel something. So, like super fast speed metal,
Not going to do it.
not going to do it unless there's a good kind of outlet for it. I'm a sucker for just a really great song. If it's got a great groove or a great melody or both, ideally, something you can sing along to, something that's memorable, something that evokes emotion. That's what I like, and that can happen in any genre.
That's right.
Obviously, a lot of my music career has been focused primarily in blues and rock. I've played some country. I played in a really cool band, a rock reggae band called Loud Love, for about 6 months. I was kind of filling in for their drummer, whose wife just had a baby, and he was like, I need time for to spend with the baby.
Of course.
Not playing any gigs. So that was great. Like I said, I have a really wide range of stuff I like. It's just, it's got a groove, and it's got to, like I said, bring something out and emotionally. And that can happen, in a Run DMC song, or it could happen in, a B.B. King song, or it could happen in a George Jones song, or it could happen in a Foo Fighters song. I kind of cover it all.
That's cool. Yeah,
You just did.
Yeah,
for sure. You gonna ask him?
You.
Okay. 80s or 90s music?
80s or 90s music. Okay. Both? Is that
that's a fair answer. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell you, I'll quantify that. 80s music, because that's where I first got super excited about music. 90s music, because that's the era that I started playing music in. So I started my first gig, that fateful first gig with the guys, was in July of 1991. So while we were playing music that was more kind of 60s, 70s, 80s, I was learning everything and trying to soak everything in that was happening currently as well, right? So I have a huge place in my musical heart, as cheesy as that sounds, for the music in the 90s, because that's when those were my formative years as a drummer. But influence-wise, 80s music was where I first really went nuts about songs, and probably, and I think this is probably true for everybody. When you go through puberty and you learn about feelings for other people, music is such a huge part of that. I mean, it was for me. Like, when you go through those very impressionable times in your life, music has a huge thing to do with that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
And still does.
I think everyone can think of songs like at that high school dance, that song that I danced with her with, that kind of thing. Like, if I hear certain songs, it'll take me right back to a place where I heard it first, or something really important or fun or awful happened. Every time I hear the Journeyman record by Eric Clapton, I am reminded of this family ski trip we went on to Most Sutton in the Eastern Townships in Jay Peak, Vermont. And my dad bought Marty and I these CD players, and that album came out, and we had that album and we played it. And I'll always remember that we stayed in like a Best Western in Granby that first night before we played that album. Probably drove my parents nuts, but that's just an example of music that was so impressionable in a time and place that I always associate it with that time and place.
Yeah, it's cool how that works.
Yeah, it's everybody has that story, right?
Oh yeah,
like we could sit here and talk about that forever. Like I've got story, like I reference April Wine a lot because I listen to him a lot. But Sign of the Gypsy Queen, Lord of the Rings, because I was reading the books and listening to the music. So every time I hear Sign of the Gypsy Queen, I think of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which is not for me. It's the Nirvana Unplugged album, MTV Unplugged. I don't know.
Right.
It was just like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, listen, Matt, we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, this was super awesome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, guys. It was.
We appreciate your
fun
time.
Chatting. Like I've said, I can talk all night long about music.
I know it's great. It really is. But again, we don't want to take too much more of your time. But that's so great.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back again. You can bring one of the other lads with you. We'll let them do some talking.
Sure, yeah. You should get Tony in here. He's a good talker.
Oh, I'd love to get Tony in here for sure.
Yeah.
Can I tell a little story before we go?
Sure.
We went to see you guys at the Rainbow. I brought a buddy of mine, Dennis. He's a little bit, to describe Dennis, he's very, very energetic.
Okay.
So you're
wired.
You guys are playing your set, and we're loving it, right? We're sitting up on the balcony watching you guys, and it's amazing. And I say to Dennis, I said, you know what, bud? They're going to stop and take a break, but they're going to sign merch. And he's like, really? So he down the stairs, over to the merch table, because you guys had stopped at that point, right? You guys were on stage signing T-shirts and albums and stuff. Right. And he ran up. And I think Olivia was working, selling your merch.
Yeah.
Anyway, he walked over, he bought something. He ran up onto the stage past everybody waiting in line and ran over towards you. And I don't know if you remember, but to you and Tony. And Tony had the biggest, like, oh my God, what's happening here? And Dennis is just a little guy, right? But he's like,
wired.
And I come up and I kind of looked at you and I looked at Tony. I said, let me just take the drunk guy away. And I kind of took him by the scruff of the neck and I said, Dennis, there's a line over here. You have to wait in line. He was so jacked, and he's one of your biggest fans. He loves you guys.
That's cool.
So that was kind of, I had to kind of get that story in there.
Hey, man, anytime anyone gets excited about our band, great.
Yeah. It's just the look on Tony's face. It was like,
a little.
It was fearful because Dennis was running towards him. Right? He was like,
Dennis,
he's like, okay, who's this?
I wish I could take a video of that, actually.
Oh, that was pretty good. Anyway.
That's great.
Okay, quick little story.
Please.
That reminds me, one time we were playing at the Rainbow, Steve had his cell phone on, like he has a little stand that he puts his harmonicas on so he can grab them quick and change them in between songs. And he had his phone there, and what he often does, before I used to do it and have it on the floor by my drum set, you put the clock on your phone so it's like big and legible so you know what time it is, so you know how much time is left in the set, right?
Makes sense.
And so he had his phone on his harmonica stand. Anyway, some guy comes down the stairs, this is at the Rainbow, and grabs his phone and goes running out. Tony drops his guitar and goes running after him. And man, I could tell so many stories from the Rainbow. Anyway, I'll cut it off there.
Why is it always the Rainbow?
Yeah.
It's just that venue.
Well,
That's a great venue, by the way. I love Rainbow.
The funny thing is though, Tony's not a big man.
No.
He's not a very, I'm having a visual image of him taking off the guitar and chasing somebody.
Oh yeah, no, if something irks him, I won't tell the story. When you get Tony in, ask him about Fight Club at the Rainbow.
All right.
He'll know what you're talking about.
Let's write that down and remember to ask that, yeah.
Fight Club night.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Okay, thanks very much,
so
Matt.
Great.
My pleasure, guys.